aircraft?
We're starting again. Episode 306 with Don Albracht. We're having technical difficulties because we're both retarded. Don's got a snowstorm. I'm a moron. There's no excuse for me. And here we are, back at it. So now I've opened up the New York file. All right, we're back. We're recording. We're good.
Okay, well, we'll pick it up with the New York SWAT file. That's the if you open that up, you'll see there's some photos there, and most of these we've looked at. But the one where with the aircraft down there in the corner, you might see it. Or it just says NY SWAT Sammy WPD.
Yep.
Well, that's there's in New York we did a lot of organized crime work, as you can imagine. Gotti, of course, was the main guy. He killed Castellano in when was that? 83, I think, and he took over the New York crime family, and basically he'd been running things ever since, and he was a vicious guy. So state went after him a couple times. Didn't get him. Finally, it's a great story. There's several books out on it, but we finally were able to get the goods on the guy, and he knew he was sunk. And so he and his consigliere, which is basically the family's attorney, cooked up this scheme to. Well, first of all, they went to Sammy the Bull Gravano, who was the underboss, and they told him he had to take the hit for all this, and he's going, why me, and he was kind of balking at that. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
We're having a rough start. Keep going.
Okay, so he was balking at that. So they conspired to basically blame everything on him, whether or not he wanted to take the fall or not. And so he goes, well, he says this ain't right. He says this is not the way we do things in the family, La Cosa Nostra. So he said, screw you guys. I'm going state's evidence. So basically, he went. He cooperated with the FBI. And he rolled on Gotti, and honestly, it was icing on the cake. We had the goods on Gotti. We would have convicted him anyway. But him testifying was a huge blow to the morale of the organized crime in New York. It really took them down hard, and they never recovered from that either. They tried to make us go at it again, and we took them down again. But Sammy the Bull, back to him. He was testifying, of course, in federal court, and as a result, he was there was a contract out for his life because they're going to kill him, right?
Yeah.
So they fell to the New York SWAT team to actually do the protection for him. Now, your viewers might say, "Well, isn't that the Marshals Witness Protection Program?" Yes and no. The Marshals will take over a witness once the case is concluded and the witness has testified. But up until that time, the witness is the responsibility of the agency that's conducting the investigation. In this case, was us. So we were responsible for his safety and well-being for the time being until he got to court, which drug on for a couple of years, I might add. So as a result, we ended up spiriting him away to various locations throughout the United States and keeping him in safe houses, basically. And we'd always have, usually hostage rescue team did a bit of it. And then whenever he was up in the New York vicinity or maybe down at Quantico, someplace like that, we would do it. And of course, HRT did too. And in one occasion, he had come back and do a debrief with the United States Attorney's Office, and I happened to have my camera with me, and we're doing a witness protection detail, basically. And that photo that with the aircraft there, that's HRT's plane. He had just finished testifying in before the. I think that was not court yet. I think this was a proffer or a meeting with U.S. Attorney's Office discussing his testimony. And because the trial hadn't started yet, because it's my recollection, because I left before that. If you'll notice, we got the biggest guys on the SWAT team walking with Sammy. Sammy's the short guy with no hat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the short guy with the hat is the team leader. Okay, that's Phil Scala. He ended up being the supervisor of the organized crime squad that got Gotti the second time, and the Gotti family. But you see the guys there walking with him. I can't, the picture's fuzzy, but I think the front guy is an HRT guy because they're putting him back on the plane, and looks like John Mulligan and Ron Parker Pearson, and I'm guessing by the size, but that might be Conrad Motika. I'm not sure, but I can't see if he's been back to me. But those were the biggest guys escorting him around because Sammy was short, you know. So we did this, for I think for the last year I was there or something like that, because I was there in 93, and that's when all this was going on. The 93 was a banner year, and we ended up doing babysitting him a little bit down at Quantico. We had him hidden out down there. But there's an interesting story that goes with that. We were up all night, myself and Doug Spillers, my partner on SWAT. You've heard me mention before. We're taking the midnight shift, so Sammy's sleeping, and we're just sitting outside his room and watching TV. In fact, we watched Lonesome Dove, all 8 episodes. But so the morning comes, early in the morning, like 4 in the morning, before anybody's awake on the FBI campus down there. They decided he wanted to go for a run, and there's a place out there where you can run around the lake, and it's real secluded. So the 2 case agents come in, Matty and Frank, who were famous guys in the FBI. They come in and they pick him up, and they're in their running gear, and they pick up Sammy. He's in his running gear, and they pile in our Suburban, and which Doug and I are driving, and we drive them out to the lake, and then we follow them, and they go off for a run, and we follow them. We got our lights on. It's pitch dark. We're driving around this, what we call tank trails out there. And we've been up all night. Man, I'm tired. And Doug nods off, and I don't even know if I noticed that he had fallen asleep, but the problem occurred when I fell asleep. So I'm driving the Suburban, and I'm following Matty and Frank and and Sammy the Bull, and all of a sudden I wake up, and I got to be 10 feet from him. I
Jesus Christ!
I slam on the brakes. Of course, Doug wakes up, and I say, "Oh my God! I almost ran him over." I was exhausted, and I wasn't. Now I was awake. I was awake. But I'm sitting there going, how the hell would we prove that, this wasn't some kind of FBI conspiracy? If I'd have run over, it would still be a conspiracy to this day. That's 100. Yeah. They would think that you were compromised by the mob, that you got your mortgage paid off or something, and you're gonna be all kinds of stories. Yeah, you can be like, I just fell asleep, man. Yeah, it's just that simple. And anybody that knows me would believe it. They would believe it. Jeez. But the crazy part is we sat and talked to this guy for I don't know, hours. He was a hell of a nice guy, very engaging, very sharp. I don't think he graduated high school, but man, this guy was smart, and he was extremely cordial, and he understood. And that's kind of the way it is with the mob guys. They know we're professionals, and we treat them with respect. So they treat us with respect pretty much. Maybe some of the young Turks might not, but the older guys, they all get it, So we're just doing our jobs at opposite ends of the spectrum. That's all. Yeah. So, and this guy's killed 19 people. He admitted to, and there's no reason in my mind to doubt that he didn't. But a great guy. I mean, he's a stone cold killer. Me. But as far as sitting down and talking to him, you know what I mean? You got to have a beer with him. I mean, he was just he wasn't like a psychopath. He was just probably a little sociopath, probably, but he was very, very interesting to talk to, and you don't get an opportunity to do that very often. So that was pretty cool back in New York. And of course, after the fact, I departed New York the end of 93, early 94, went to Kansas City, and my team stayed behind, of course, did the continuing protection for Sammy through the trial. And of course, I heard all the stories about that and everything. They said the mob guys were coming into court and trying to intimidate Sammy, which was not going to work. And so to counter that, we brought in the SWAT team and other agents from the office, and we filled the first 2 rows of the courtroom. so that the mob guys had to sit behind us.
Jeez.
And so we were there. We took up the first 2 rows. So when Stanley looked out into the audience, he could see friendly faces. This was relayed to me by my partner, Craig Arnold, who was still on the team. In fact, I think he took over the team shortly after that. But when Phil Scala got a promotion to be the supervisor. But it was good times in New York. It was crazy. But again, now moving along.
But if we can go back real quick. So when he goes for a run or something, but it doesn't even have to be him. Let's just say it was anyone in witness protection, just any guy who's speaking about whatever, someone that they want killed.
Yeah.
Is that where I feel like that would be like a weak spot? If there was a contractor and they knew where he was, I mean, is it a possibility? Obviously, you guys would think it through, but I mean, is it a possibility there's a sharpshooter that's, he's going to claim that $1 million bounty? Yeah,
but he'd have to know our schedule, where we were, that sort of thing. And it was all kept close hold. So there was, of course, when they knew he was going to show up in court.
Yeah.
Well, of course, a court is secure. It's you can't get guns inside. No, you could. I mean,
yeah, Brian Nichols.
You can always do it, but there was a lot of security in that courtroom. So there was, as far as his coming and going, we took great pains to make sure that anyone who was trying to surveil us had no luck. Yeah. I mean, because we didn't just go by car; we went by boat, by plane.
Yeah,
we did everything, and we always had him hidden out someplace where nobody could find him, or even if they suspected he was there. No way they could get in. Yeah. Like military installation, something like that. So okay. It's something. It's like protecting the president or something. Like
that. Would you say that there's probably something similar going on with El Chapo?
I'm sure. I'm trying to think who would be. Would DEA have him? I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure who's got him or the Martin. If because he's still. I don't know. Has that trial finished yet?
I think they still have him in ADX Florence.
Oh, he's been convicted.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, he's been convicted. Well, Florence is where all the baddest of the bad go.
Yeah, the FBI mole. Who's it? Brian Hansen? Is it Hansen?
Robert Hansen.
Robert Hansen. Yeah. Yeah. That asshole is out there. Yeah. 9/11 mastermind.
And he's not that bad. They're just punishing him.
Oh yeah, no, that's what it is. Oh no, he wasn't he was just doing it for cash. But I mean, they're making an example. They're making an example of the douchebag.
Exactly. Yeah. That guy we brought back from Africa, O'Day, he went to Florence, but I think they moved him out of there eventually. Not sure where, but there's a lot of guys who are going there.
Yeah, I called them. I tried to get someone from there on the podcast. They didn't respond. I was like, hey, you got to take your shot.
You can find a retired guy.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, that's it. I'll ask around. Maybe
that would be awesome. I'm an idiot. I went straight in, left a voicemail. I'm like, hey, I'm 30 years old. My name's Tommy. Can I talk to the warden? Just no response. Hey man, if you're gonna shoot for it, go for the top.
Hey, you know what? Stranger things have happened.
Hey, I got a formal rejection from the office of General Mattis, so
hey, at least they read your request.
I got a formal rejection from the office of George Bush as well. So I'll take the formal rejections as wins. But yeah,
hey, you know what? You should create a file. That's all.
Exactly.
Anyway, back to the pictures. I was going to comment on the one with myself and my partner Rich Finelli. He's in the two of us because it's significant where we are. We're in our raid jackets. You see that picture?
Which one? Raid jacket.
It was New York WTC
bombing 93. Yeah. 93,
yeah. Now that night we were working fugitives. He was my partner fugitives. Funny thing about it was he lived right down the street from me.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, there was New York was so expensive. We had about 40 or 50 agents living out in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is 80 miles from the office. And we used to drive through Philadelphia division, Newark division to get to the New York division to go to work every day. That's how far out it was. That's how expensive things were there. And so he and I would ride together a lot. And he was, like I said, he lived right down the street from me. And so we were partnering up when we were on Fugitives. And he was a great guy. We got along famously. But that picture right there, we had been out working late on a fugitive caper. And but it would happen right after the bombing. We had been working on the bombing, and then the next night we were out working on a fugitive case. And so we, it'd been a couple of days now after the bombing. So we go, hey, let's go down to the crime scene, see if we can get a gander inside, because this would be something historic to see. And so, getting in the crime scene is not that easy. So we went down there, and luckily one of the guys, he's a bomb tech. He was on a squad next to me. I knew him real well. And that's kind of how I remember it. I could be totally, maybe it was somebody Rich knew. I can't remember. But the bottom line was, we sweet talked our way in. Mm-hmm. And, and we got out. And if you can imagine a gigantic hole in a roughly a circular sphere underground, makes 6 or 7 stories high and an equal distance wide. And we walked out on some scaffolding that put us toward the center of the where the blast took place, and we could literally look straight up above us and see sky. There was a hole blown through the ceiling, which would have been the ground outside World Trade Center underneath the garage. That's how devastating that bomb was. And had they placed it in a different spot, maybe it would have been worse. But the bottom line was that was a tremendous explosion, and what people don't understand is how close they came to taking it down the first time.
Yeah,
and the guys that did it were like the forerunners of Al Qaeda. Yeah, and so we didn't, of course, we weren't on Al Qaeda yet. Yeah, I don't even know if they were called Al Qaeda.
Mujahideen.
They were. Yeah, but that was us that night there inside the crime scene. So, and anyway, New York, like I said, I got pictures of the SWAT team. I think I've got a picture of a couple spots in New York. I think I was standing on a street corner in Bed-Stuy. Yeah, in Bed-Stuy. See that in New York Squad 9, C9 Teachers Bed-Stuy photo. It was just, I remember standing out there. We'd been out covering a lead out there, and I said, "Rich, take my picture here." I said, "This is, I'm on New York Avenue in Bed-Stuy, is the heart of one of the worst neighborhoods in the city. It still is to this day, and just absolute a war zone. I mean, you look behind me, that's a burned out building, and it's just nothing there. And you know what? I can't imagine New York's any better today than it was then. Jesus. But it was just amazing work in that city. It was like a third world country in places. It was, and it'd be in Manhattan, it'd be staggering wealth, and then you go out to some of these neighborhoods, and it'd be third world poverty. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah.
It's like that. Have you heard that saying that in the suburbs of Chicago and Detroit, they have it's obviously bullshit, but it's like they have the highest rate of recruiter success for the military, because if you enlist and go deploy in Iraq, your life expectancy doubles.
Yeah, that's probably a truth to that. As when I was in, it was the all volunteer army in 1973, and they basically got a lot of guys I was in with were guys who found this as their ticket out. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were willing to go in the service to get out and get some opportunity spoke highly of them. Yeah. So and they did. A lot of some great guys. They just said, you know what, I can't do this the rest of my life. You know, I got to make some changes, and they did. Yeah.
Jesus.
But I was going to suggest. You asked me about Eric Rudolph. And I was going to, or did you? I think we were talking. We may have touched upon that, but I was going to
the Nazi?
Mention. Pardon?
The Nazi?
No, Eric Rudolph, the Olympic bomber.
Oh.
The Olympic bomber. Yeah.
Oh no, I was thinking of whoever that.
Well, that was one of our SWAT operations in '98.
Okay.
Was early '98. That was before I went to Nairobi, but we were looking for Eric Rudolph down in the hills of North Carolina when he was running around as a fugitive out there. Well, we were we got sent down there with a bunch of other teams, and we're basically gear up military fashion and with our gear and go out in the woods and do patrols, basically looking for this guy. Well, if you could see the terrain and the vegetation, even in the dead of winter, this was February when I was there, it was impossible to find anyone. I mean, you might run across some sign that somebody there, but he could have been hiding in a bush 10 foot from us. We wouldn't have seen him. I mean, that's what made it a little hairy. That's what we were a little worried about, that, maybe he would figure out he'd take out an agent or two. But when we got to thinking, we go, well, that would reveal to us that he was definitely there. We figured if we cornered him, he might put up a fight. But we didn't think there was much chance he would take a pot shot at us. But apparently he admitted later that he did. So I've heard. This is just talk, but apparently it's in a book or something that he actually did go to a spot overlooking the FBI command post and think about taking out an FBI agent to make a statement, but he did not. Had a couple guys in his sights apparently. I hope it wasn't me, but
probably was.
I guess that's what the story goes anyway. But that was in '98. And then, of course, after that was the going to Kenya, Nairobi for the bombing. So I've got a bunch of things written down here, just in no particular order, that just came to mind. You've given me a great opportunity to go through all my boxes of crap and sort things out, newspaper clippings and all that. And I came across a couple things. I was telling somebody couple weeks back about how I was the champion of negative investigation. I would always prove something didn't happen. And when I was in San Diego, that seemed to be the case a lot. Maybe it's because I was a new guy. I got the crappy cases, but I would get kidnappings. Kidnapping. This woman claimed she was kidnapped and raped and all this stuff. 17 years old, go to interview her or something. Something just stinks about the whole thing. You get a feel for people, when they're telling the truth and when they're lying. And some are very good. The sociopaths, you can't tell. But, it's been my experience that the people that are really, they're innocent and you're being accusing of something, they will get extremely, extremely angry. Okay.
Okay.
But the person who's guilty will try to explain to you why you're wrong. And that was always something that I always took with me. And I remember interviewing this woman. She didn't seem as distraught as someone who had been kidnapped and raped. Okay. So bottom line, I was suspect. So long story short, I was able to, by my interviewing and following up on the things she told me, it proved that was just total BS. Turned out she just wanted to hang out with her boyfriend and didn't want to come home and didn't want to tell her parents that she'd been hanging out with her boyfriend. That's kind of crap. That's kind of crap that she wasted federal resources on, So
naturally, the logical step is accuse someone of kidnapping and rape.
Exactly, and that's how a 17-year-old girl thinks, right?
Okay.
So, and then I had an extortion case where another kidnapping, where a guy was kidnapped and the wife got a demand letter to pay $50,000, and it was kind of like. Ruthless People, I think was the name of the movie, was where the ransom demand kept getting negotiated down. And that's exactly what was going on here. We ended up negotiating it down to $10,000, which was kind of suspicious. But we started to put together, as the case unfolded, we started thinking, this doesn't look right. It sounds like maybe it's total BS. This could very well be the guy himself trying to extort money, as it turned out, from his father, which is exactly where the money was going to come from. And we suspected he was trying to, because he had tried to borrow money from his father, and his father said no. So, well, what do you know? He got himself kidnapped. Now there's a ransom demand. Well, long story short, we worked the case. We set the drop up just like in the movies. We set the package down. We got surveillance out. I remember I'm about couple hundred yards away, looking through binoculars. I'm in some construction that's under construction, but a place under construction, and we got the SWAT team in the woods and everything. We got, most of us are dressed in plain clothes because most of the guys on our squad were SWAT anyway. But we got him out there, and sure enough, here comes this guy. And as soon as I heard surveillance pick him up, say, here comes somebody walking there, I immediately got in my car and drove to the vicinity because I knew this was going to be the guy. And sure enough, They go back and forth, and the boss says, "Yeah, take him down." So they got him, and he starts to run, and he runs right towards me. And I'm on the one side of the chain link fence, and he's on the other. And basically, we stopped him. My buddy Paul Grudek pulled him down with a shotgun, and I think Paul Vick came over and collared him, and I was standing there holding him at gunpoint. I probably can't remember. I probably had my Smith & Wesson 459 at the time. That was the SWAT issue weapon. It was a horrible gun, but it was better than a revolver. But that was like, so that turned out to be, and he was a Navy guy. He was in the Navy, and one of the funniest parts about that was the people on the ship that he was assigned to must have had a good feeling for this guy, because they didn't buy it either. They had you remember back in the old days, you probably don't remember, but in the old days, you used to take milk cartons, and if there was a missing child, they put the picture on the milk carton, right? Well, they were taking all the milk cartons on the ship and putting his picture on there. "Have you seen me?" This is before we arrested him. This is the kind of gallows humor that military police engage in all the time. So. And it was kind of hysterical when we found out about it. I said, "Well, hell, these guys don't even think it's for real." So I didn't feel so bad. Yeah. So, but that was very typical. Those are the kind of cases I would often get, and they wouldn't always. It always amazed me that no matter what kind of case I'd get, the victim, no matter how innocent, never told us the complete truth. It was they always shaded the truth. They not always, but children generally don't, but adults always have an ulterior motive, it seems, and they're hiding something, or they're embarrassed about something, or whatever, and it's always a glitch that causes you problems in the investigation. And these were kind of things that you have to sort through as an investigator. But every once in a while, I'd get an extortion that was legit. Like we had some great extortions where did the drops and everything and made the arrests, and we're driving all around conducting surveillance, got transmitters going and trackers going, all kinds of stuff. It's just like in the movies, and they are amazing. They are an incredible piece of work that comes together. And once you try to go for that package of money, there's just no way you're going to get away. You're going to be found. So there's no way you can pick up that package of money. Now, if you're going to have a wire to a Swiss bank account, something like that, it'll be a little more problematic, but we're still going to find you.
Yeah.
So it's just somebody's got to come and take the money at some point. So no matter how many times it gets transferred, it's going to end up somewhere in somebody's account, and that's of course where we go. But
I wonder if you could be like an altruistic kidnapper. If you could be like, I want, instead of like $10 million, like I want you to plant 10,000 trees.
Well, there have been people that requested crazy things.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. There's I want you to release my buddies from prison, things like that.
Yeah.
There's certainly that kind of stuff.
You'd be like a Greenpeace terrorist.
But yeah, I had actual. I worked public corruption. I think one of the few convictions I ever got, because I told you it was very difficult to work and to crack these cases. And the one in particular I had was a county councilman, what do you call it? County council members, whatever. He was kind of like the chair and commissioner. And he was running for re-election. And supposedly kind of a big shot in the small town, rural county kind of like, but it was a small town. And he extorted money from a guy who was doing a special investigation. He was a prosecutor with Clay County, Missouri. This is Cass County, Missouri. And he's doing this guy's been assigned by the state to be a special prosecutor to investigate corruption in the sheriff's office, which, I was involved working with him for corruption for the sheriff's office. And this guy was county commissioner. Now, he was supposed to be working with us, and he was friendly, he was cooperative, but somewhere along the line, he had run for re-election during the course of this investigation, and he approached this attorney and said, "If you want your contract renewed, you need to give me $5,000 campaign contribution." Well, that's flat out extortion. I mean, it's flat out extortion. He is not even a constituent, of course. And he's looking at this going, I can't believe this guy's coming up me, I'm a state prosecutor for the state of Missouri, and he's extorting a bribe from me. Well, there were other people that he did this to as well. And two of the people came forward, including this attorney was one of them. And they brought the information to the FBI. And, of course, now my investigation spins off from the sheriff's office over to the county. And we ended up conducting this investigation. Of course, now I have two cooperating witnesses. And it was kind of like a Ku Klux Klan meeting back in the 60s when three guys met for a Klan meeting. Two of them were FBI informants. And so this was exactly what happened here. These guys met, that we had passed the money to the guy. And now so then what I did was I went, my partner, Jeff Harris, and I went and did an interview of him. And of course, he knows what he did. And he is denying it. But you can tell he is scared to death. Of course, we knew he wouldn't say anything. We doubted very much he'd say anything. But we wanted to plug him with the information that we suspected there was something going on. That would stir him up, and that would generate more activity. Well, sure enough, he calls these two guys, and they say, hey, I want to meet. So they go to a clandestine location, way, but got to be 50 miles away from where he was living to actually do this. 2 counties up, but they ends up meeting in a restaurant, and of course they're in there. And of course, 2 of these people in here are wired, and one was wearing a transmitter. So I'm listening in my car. Plus, they're recording and this was back in the old days when you had to have a transmitter that would work, and then you had to have a recorder that would work, and recorders were tapes. Mm-hmm. And that's those little, they called them Nagras there. That was the manufacturer. They were a little bigger than a cell phone, like a very tiny, I wouldn't say a tablet, but they weren't small, but you had to hide these things. Okay. So I have both my sources in there, and Jeff and I are outside listening in the car. What's going on? And some clown pulls up. We're in a Pizza Hut next door, and some clown pulls up. We're trying to listen. It's kind of scratchy, and because we're looking for the code word. When he passes the money over to him, that's when we're going to come in and take him down. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's very important we can hear this. So some clown pulls up in a car with a stereo blasting next to me. Okay, and I'm like, I can't believe. Well, I'm listening. I figured, well, he get out of and then it'll be quiet again. Well, he got out, and somehow he got out and left his car, turned his car off, but the stereo kept blasting. Well, I see him get up, and he started to walk in. I jump out of the car. I said, hey, you got to turn that off? And he goes, F you. I went, I don't want to leave the car. Yeah. So I looked at it, I get back in the car, I go, Jeff, go reach over and turn that shit off, And so he goes over and turns it off. And it's funny, Jeff is a first office agent in Kansas City, not relatively new. He had been there a couple of years. I'm a senior guy coming in from New York, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of, everybody knows guys from New York have rough edges. Well, he's about to find out how rough. So this guy comes back outside now with his pizza, and he notices his car's music's not playing anymore. And he looks at me, he goes, Did you get my car? Did you turn my music off? Did you get my car? And by this time I have had it. Okay. So I jump out of that car. Now he doesn't know who I am. Yeah. I jump out of that car and I start coming at him. I said, and I'm reading him the riot act and he's looking at me like, my God, this guy is crazy. And he couldn't get in that car fast enough to get out of there. So I pushed him all the way in the car, or backed him all the way in the car, to the point where I was on the other side of my car. He drives away. I'm standing there, yelling at him all the way out. Don't ever come back here, whatever. And I end up walking back, getting in the car, and I sit down and I'm listening, and Jeff looks at me, he says, Don, you were in New York way too long. I said, you know what? This would have been typical for New York. Typical for New York. So
now, anyway, in a situation like that, I mean, do you risk like flashing your badge?
Oh, it wouldn't have been. Well, if it got ugly, the best thing would have been to defuse it. Best thing would do was just let him go. Maybe us change positions someplace. But we had found this spot that was the best reception, because last thing I want to do is get in a brawl with this guy, because I'm in the middle of this. So, and then he calls the cops on us, and that kind of, you can see how it could escalate out of control. I learned that the hard way. You gotta turn the other cheek. So this time I did, and it worked out. But the bottom line is, we get back in the car. Now we're trying to resume listening. And we hear the code word, and then we go in, and we don't. Now we're not arresting because we don't have a warrant. Okay, we went in, but we're gonna. And this is a white collar case. We don't generally arrest people for white collar. We give them summons to appear. Okay, so this guy's not a flight risk. But as it turned out, he was a different kind of risk. We go in there and we confront them, and of course this guy comes apart at the seams. And he's supposed to be a tough guy, right? Well, no, not really. He was probably a bully, is what he was. But he came apart. I mean, he was so bad. I took him outside. I said, "You got to pull your shit together, okay? You're I'm not going to arrest you, not yet, okay? But I said, you have got to. You got some things. I didn't read him his rights or anything. Yeah. Because I'm not going to arrest him. He's not in custody. I said, look, I'm not going to arrest you. You're free to go home. I said, but we're going to talk again. In fact, you're going to get your attorney. You're going to come to our office. You're going to talk to us. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to have a little sit down. And he is like, he's threatening to kill himself. And I go, oh no. So when somebody says something like that, you can't dismiss it. Yeah. Okay. So I look at my partner Jeff. We're standing there. I'm going, I got to take this guy home and give him to his wife. I got to take him home. There's no way I can let this guy get in the car and go drive himself into a concrete embankment or get home and kill himself, something like that, just in case he was serious. So I'm going, oh, for Pete's sake. So I take him in his car. I put him in his car. And it was sports cars, I think. So I'm driving. Now this is, from a tactical standpoint, it's not a great idea because I'm driving because I have to, because I'm going to let him drive. Yeah. And he's sitting in the passenger seat, and I didn't handcuff him. And I'm looking at him going, well, if he gets froggy on me, he's older than I am. I can take him out, with my hands if I have to. Yeah. He's not going to be that big a problem. So I'm not that worried about him. And plus, I was on kind of. Well, I kind of thought, well, myself, if he makes any spontaneous comments, I can use those against him. But I didn't. But I made sure that I didn't ask him anything about the case. I just let him talk, and I just kept telling him, "Hey, it's going to be all right. You're gonna have to go through the system, though. Blah blah blah." And Jeff took my car, and he followed me down, and we took him home all the way back to Cass County. It was like an hour drive or something like that, all the way back, and then we had to drive all the way back, to the city. And I knock on his door. It's like by now it's almost midnight, and his wife answered the door, in her robe and pajamas, and said, we told her what happened. You can imagine her reaction, So we go in, and first thing I say is, okay, do you have any firearms in the house? And I told her why. I wanted to confiscate those firearms temporarily because of what things he said. And you know what? He did. He had a gun and a Beretta 380. And I said, I'll be taking that. And we'll have this in temporary custody when down the road you can certainly come back and get this tomorrow if you want. But I have to take custody of this tonight because of the things he said. Do you understand? They said, yeah. So I took the gun. It wasn't evidence or anything. I just took it for safekeeping. And then, as it turns out, he pled. We got a conviction. It was a ground ball, but I got a big award for that case because it preceded the takedown of the Missouri Speaker of the House, and we took down the Missouri Speaker of the House. One of my squad mates was doing that, so it was a bam, bam, bam. We did like 3 cases in a row. So I got a big award for that case, but it was just an extortion case is what it was. And my boss says, you got a flair for public corruption. I go, oh, come on, Bob, don't kid me. This is just an extortion case. That's all it was. I can do these stand on my head. But anyway, that was an extortion that actually occurred, So we kind of had, it was kind of a mixture. I like I said, I always gravitated towards violent crime because of the kind of cases we worked.
Yeah.
They were fast paced, generally speaking. They were, there was a lot of action. There was, you're dealing with some real bad characters most of the time. You're making arrests. You're going to court. You're testifying in court. You're, swearing out arrest warrants. I mean, it's got everything you want. It is just fast paced, action driven, but the hours were killer. Okay. They're like drugs were pretty bad too, but drugs kind of had a schedule. It was usually late mornings to late night. Okay. Violent crime was basically, we were around the clock. It was around the clock because even if we arrested somebody late at night, we were done. We had to get up the next day and transport this guy somewhere or swear out warrants or whatever. So it turned out, we were working with very little sleep a lot of time, but it was such fun. And the guys that went to that squad and worked that stuff were the A-type personalities, hard chargers. And because if you weren't, you didn't last long. Okay, we'd burn you out. Mm-hmm. So, but the guys who really loved it, with guys like me and others like me, okay, we loved it. We lived it. We breathed it. We loved every minute of it. It was exciting, and it was adrenaline dump all the time. We loved it. So it was kind of and the cases had great impact because they were violent crime. They're really victims, at the other end of these things. And it's a great feeling to take care of somebody, put them in jail, and then do something for a victim and try to give them some justice. So it was a great stuff to work. I mean, all the criminal investigations are like that. However, the violent crime was, by its nature, it was very fast-paced, very action-oriented. So we had a great time working, and I always worked on squads with guys who were that kind of personality. And when you got guys like that working together, there's not much you can't accomplish. Mm-hmm. So it's because everybody's, let's get the job done. Okay, so whatever it takes, let's do it. So those are the kind of things that I take away from me. I mean, I work fugitives in New York, which is under the violent crimes umbrella. But we had there in New York, there was a whole squad. They called it the bank robbery squad, C19, and they were the premier squad in the office. Mm-hmm. I was on C9, which was fugitives, and the bank robbery squad was, they were, you name it. Dog Day Afternoon, that was that squad. That was the squad that was out there handling that, in that movie. The stuff was, armored car robberies, bank robberies, all kinds of stuff like that. And that's what we had on our squad. We had a lot of bank robberies. In San Diego, God, we had bank robberies so we'd have several a day. We had 6 in one day one time in San Diego because there were so many banks. Yeah. But in Kansas City wasn't quite that bad. We've had 2 or 3 in one day. But that was the most I remember. But we had banks robberies on a regular basis. They go in spurts because we'd end up locking these guys up. We'd catch them, lock them up, and that would kind of cool it down for a while. But then a new group would come along and they'd start up, and it kept us going. So we're all about chasing these guys down and locking them up. I was also going to mention a couple fugitive cases we had. A bank robbery case. Before I get to the fugitive case, I'll mention the bank robbery case. It had just about everything in it. It was a long story short, and it's going to be difficult. But there was this group of guys, 3 guys.
Before you start the story, let me go pee. Let me go pee. I don't want to get. But I was going to say I had on Ed Morales, the guy in the FBI shootout in Miami, yes. And I remember him mentioning that he said that he was like, "Yeah, there are times where we're having multiple bank robberies a day." And in my mind, I was like, I don't know if I believe that. But now you're going, yeah, no, it's just like Jesus. Yeah. So sometimes it just takes off.
Same thing in Florida. They got banks everywhere. So they're like 7-Elevens. People just rob them all the time.
Bastards. All right.
Anyway, I'll set this up while you're going.
Monologue.
You really need to get that checked.
I know.
Anyway, Blue Springs, Missouri. I was working bank robberies, and a bank there had 3 guys go in. And it's funny, I was just going through the newspaper clippings again, but it was crazy. 3 guys go in and they rob the place. It's called a takeover robbery, where you go in and you go, everybody on the floor. It's just like Raising Arizona. Everybody freeze, everybody on the floor. Well, which is it you want us to do, young fella? Well, these guys, they basically came in and took over the place, okay? And they seem to know exactly where to go. Now, this is a small bank, okay? But based on the video we watched and the testimony of the witnesses, they seem to know. There was no hesitation. They seem to know exactly where to go and what to do. It was well planned. It was clear they had excellent intelligence, so they knew exactly where to go and who to go to and where to stand and all sorts of things like that. Just little things we picked up watching this. So right away when you see that, you suspect an inside job. We'll get to that in a minute. But as they were going into the place to rob it, an off-duty police officer was at the ATM, and he and his wife, I think, if I remember, they were both police officers, and he and his wife were, and one was in the car, one was at the ATM, and they see a car pull up, three guys get out, and they put on masks as they in the car, and then they get out and they go run to the bank. Well, in law enforcement circles, we call that a clue, okay? And so as a result, they go in, they rob the bank. They go, well, now the last thing they want to do is create a problem. So they pull out of the parking lot, go across the street, set up a vantage point, get on. I think they got on their cell phones. I don't think they had radios. This is back in the 90s, I think, late 90s maybe. Cell phones were around, I think. But one way or another, they got a hold of dispatch. They said, "Hey, bank robbery in progress. Three black males. There we go. Bring the cavalry." So they're being great eyewitnesses. Okay, so they're seeing everything and they're reporting the activity. They stayed on the line to dispatch. So police officers roll up and they block the intersections out in front of the bank, a little bit to the east and a little bit to the west. Not so you don't really see them when you come out of the bank. And but these guys pile in the car, and they take off. And as they take off, one of the officers is pulling right up, and he pulls right up and jumps out, and he leans over the hood of his car with his gun and yells for him to stop. And of course they just blow right by, and they all open up and shoot at him as they drive by, and they spin. They go down the frontage road along the freeway, going west, and then they almost run into another police officer, and they go they go back to the south, then back east again, and onto the freeway, and then the chase is on. The entire Blue Springs Police Department is now chasing them down I-70 from Blue Springs, Missouri, which is a eastern suburb of Kansas City Metro. And they're heading where they always go, straight back to Kansas City. Okay, it's crazy. And everybody runs back to Kansas City. I think they figure they get lost in the big city if they're not from there. It turns out these guys are all from there, but. So the chase is on, and there's cop cars chasing them, and these guys are trying to shoot the tires out of a semi to cause an accident.
Jesus!
They had stolen this car for the getaway car. It was an old beater Caprice, which was very easy to steal. I guess that's why they always stole them. And but they picked the wrong car this time. This car was not up for a police chase. Okay. So as they got maybe 5 miles down the road, maybe less than that, maybe 3, they started developing engine trouble. The thing overheated, and basically, they can't. The car is going to shut down. The engine shut down. Yeah. And so they end up coasting to a stop, but then they start bailing out. Okay, and the cops are right behind them. And they're bailing out, and one of them takes a shot at these are fleeing felons. They had fired at a police officer. They are running. It is perfectly legal to shoot them in the back, okay? And it is because these guys are a danger to the community. Yeah. So they had made that clear. So one of the officers pulls up, and he unloads with a shotgun, okay? And back then, the Blue Springs PD uses number 4 buckshot. That'll come in. That's important later. Number 4 is not very big. Okay. So they run. They run into this field. But there's one guy. It turns out to be the ringleader. He was a hardened, murdering criminal. I'm telling you. But he had these baggy pants on. Okay. And he's running. His pants keep falling down. and they're trying to carry the money and their guns. You know, eventually they end up losing everything they were carrying, the money, the guns, and he because he couldn't he couldn't hold on to his pants and all his stuff at the same time. And so when he fell down, the others kept going. The cops were able to grab him. Okay. And now the other two are now fugitives, and where the manhunt goes on. Now, there's a difference between a fugitive. Fugitive, somebody's been charged, and now we're looking for him. This is a manhunt. Okay. This is now we're looking for somebody on there's hot pursuit and after a crime. So we get, of course, we get called out because of the bank robbery. Now I roll out there and I'm helping with the manhunt, and eventually we find these guys. Mm-hmm. They had crawled into a storm drain, and they had emptied into the Blue River. They jumped in the Blue River, it's like a creek, but it's deep. It's like chest deep. And they waded across, got into a storm drain, and then started crawling through it. As they crawled through the storm drain, well, if you know anything about storm drains, they're big at the outlet and they're small at the inlet, okay? And they're going towards the inlet. So everything kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until the point where they're on their hands and knees crawling through this storm drain. Eventually, they see it's pitch dark, okay? And they see a little daylight. So they crawl up this. They find themselves looking out into the parking lot of an adjacent mall parking lot, okay? Now, these guys, you can imagine what you look like after crawling through a river and through a storm drain. One of these guys decides to get up out of there and crawl out and go in and buy some clean clothes and then come out, change their clothes, and then just kind of the plan was just to blend in, okay, and walk away and call their friends or whatever to come and get them. Meantime, everybody's looking for him. Well, this guy goes in the mall. He looks like he's been drugged through a knothole, and he's soaking wet, muddy, you know, and so he attracts attention. An off-duty cop who's working security sees him. He knew about the bank robbery, and he immediately calls the police. He says, hey, just not for nothing, but.
Just if you're not busy.
That's right. So he says, I might have one of these guys. So the cops roll in. They take him into custody. They haul him out. And the other guy, you know, seeing that the jig is up, you know, he basically surrendered. He was tired. He was beat. He just said, "Now they got the first guy. They got Ronnie. They got Quincy. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give up too." So he gave up, and they immediately took him all down to Blue Springs Police Department. So I roll up, and they put Quincy Shelton into my car. So I put him back in my Suburban. And I take him down with one of the other officers down at the police station. And then we take him in the interrogation room to start interrogation. So long story short, he's denying it. He says, no, I fell in a puddle. You know, just ridiculous story. Yeah. Didn't make any sense. Of course, we know. And it didn't matter if they knew you knew. Mm-hmm. They were just going to stand there and tell you the sky is green. It's hilarious. Well, we went on back and forth. Myself and a Blue Springs detective went back and forth with him for a while, and finally, I just pulled something out of my ass. I said, look, I said, you know about the FBI laboratory and all the stuff that we can do. I can prove you didn't fall down in a puddle. I can prove that you were in the Blue River, and you know why I can prove that? I said, because, you know, you look around the Blue River, there's all these crops and the fields and, you know, there's sort of soil mm-hmm. and all that. And there's everything that's adjacent to that field. When it rains, all that stuff, all those molecules and the all the things, the
sediment.
The sediment and the fertilizers, all that goes into the Blue River. And whatever is in the Blue River, whatever's in those fields in the Blue River, and whatever's in the Blue River is on your clothes you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
So when you go in, when we leave here, I'm taking your clothing and I'm sending it to the FBI lab, and we're going to have it analyzed. And you know what? It's going to be a match for the Blue River.
Yeah.
And the surrounding environment. Now, how are you going to explain that? You going to stick to this puddle story? And he looks at me like, all right, you got me.
Fuck. Just like,
You know, and afterwards, the detective looks at me and he says, can you guys really do that? And I go, hell if I know.
Fuck if I know. Yeah. I mean, but you know what? That's You probably could. It's an organic fingerprint.
It sounds like you probably could put something like that together.
But hell yeah,
we
just
we
lie.
Can match, we can match dirt off shoes, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, so this guy starts to confess, and he tells me the whole thing. And of course, I'm telling him that his partner is confessing, which he was, as well. So we're hopefully we'll get the straight scoop. So he's telling me about it. The whole, then we found out there was a woman involved too that we didn't know who existed. She was kind of a getaway. She was going to be the switch car driver. Okay, so when they got their getaway car, they're only going to drive that like several blocks away. Then they're going to get in a switch car. Well, they never made it to the switch car because the police were on their ass, right? So they said they remember flying by the switch car, and she was sitting there in the car and watching the car wait the police go by. So he continues to tell the story about how when they're on the freeway, the police are firing at or they're firing at the tires on the truck and trying to blow them out, and a lot of self-serving information. But the bottom line was that he says, then we got out and we ran across the field, and that's when I got shot. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, I got shot. I said, you got shot? And I'm looking, there's some blood on his shirt, but I thought it was from crawling through the bushes and everything, right? And there's not a lot of blood, but it was like you would get from being stuck by a stick, you know, and then didn't address it, and dried, just clotted and that kind of thing. It was right around his neck here, right up here. And I said, well, where'd you get shot? He goes, well, right here. He says, where the blood is. He said, right back there someplace. So I pulled down his shirt. Sure enough, there's a little tiny hole where a pellet went into his trapezoid right here, and didn't penetrate very far because I think it was the distance was just too far for those pellets. Okay, and I said, well, you really did get shot. And he goes, yeah, I got hit in the ass too. I said, what? He says, yeah. And so I said, pull down your pants. This guy's a big fat guy, right? Yeah. He pulls down his pants, and sure enough, there's a hole in his butt too. And then there's there's blood in his underwear and all that stuff. And I'm going, well, I guess this interview's over, because I wasn't finished talking to him, but I have to give this guy some medical attention. Yeah. So I said, well, okay, we're going to stop the interview for now. I got enough, so I could come back and, re-interview him. So we had to take him to the hospital, and they had to pluck those pellets out, Yeah. And, but it was basically, this guy it turns out, and now I'll skip to the end of it. We ended up getting a plea deal. Let's see, how'd that go? We pled, those two guys, the two younger guys pled, and they weren't hardened criminals. They were two, dumbasses that got pulled into, a bank robbery by this guy, Ronnie Green, who was a hardened criminal, murderer, armed robber, been in and out of prison, I don't know how many times. He was pushing 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And this guy was just a thug of the highest order. And he talked these two young guys into doing this. So he was the guy we're really after. And luckily, he had committed 3 felonies, violent felonies. Under federal statute, that makes you eligible for life in prison. And so that's what we did. We locked this son of a bitch up for the rest of his life. He's still in prison. Jesus. And because he had killed somebody, he got away with it. He intimidated the witnesses. Yeah, we can't prove it, but that was the story on the street. And the other two guys, they cooperated with us. They kept telling us about this woman. Well, turns out one of the employees got fired just 2 weeks before the robbery. And long story out why she got fired, I don't recall exactly, but she got fired, and she was not happy apparently. And she told this green guy that I know a bank you could rob, and then that's what led to it. And that's why they knew their way around. And so we have to go after her because we got this information. Now we got to put a case together. So I did. Myself and my squad, we put the case together, and this is going to be a tough one. And I was working with a crackerjack U.S. attorney, a deputy. He was the deputy United States attorney at the Western District of Missouri, named Matt Withworth, who is unfortunately passed on here recently. Not very old. A great guy. He was a federal judge before he died, but he was a great guy, solid guy. You better not hope he's after you, because you are going to jail. And he looked at me and goes, this is going to be a tough one. because we don't have any. We've got eyewitnesses, but they could be, they're criminals. And he said no physical evidence really. I said we're basically going to have to hang everything on this. He said we got a lot of circumstantial evidence that I was able to put together, but nothing big. So we had a long story short. We ended up going to trial on her, and she maintained her innocence to the very end. And to the point where I'm listening to her in court, and I'm kind of daydreaming. I go, God, I wonder if maybe she's innocent. Then I go, wait a minute. I know what happened. I said, there's no way. So she was pretty convinced, but she ended up getting convicted. And I don't think she ever did it. And but she did. She went to jail for about 7 years. Okay, as a bank robbery conspiracy. So that was the kind of stuff. Those are the kind of bank robbery cases that we had in San Diego, New York, Kansas City. Didn't matter. All over the country, these things happen, and some of them are really crazy, and then some of them are just some guy passing a note to a teller saying, "Hey, give me your money," that kind of thing. So those are the ones that generally aren't violent. Those are the ones that you just give them the money and let them go, because it's not worth getting yourself killed over. So just give them the money and let them go. But anyway, now I can go into some fugitive cases if you like.
Yeah.
Okay. Fugitives are funny because, you got guys who were wanted. A lot of times they know they're wanted. That makes them a little more tricky to get. Sometimes they don't know they're wanted and they get arrested. But guys, we would go after how the FBI gets involved in fugitives is if you commit a federal crime, you become and you get an arrest warrant issued, you're a federal fugitive. Generally, if you're a DEA fugitive, DEA goes after you. If you're an FBI fugitive, FBI will go after you. Or the marshals. The marshals do a great deal of federal fugitives, but the FBI likes to do their own. And DEA to some degree, but I think what DEA does after a while, they'll give it to the marshals. That's what they do. And so we have this back and forth all the time with the marshals about who's going to do what federal fugitives, but we always work it out, at least at our level. The bosses always fight, but we always got along great with the rank and file marshals and all the law enforcement officers. The old turf battles that you hear about, yeah, that happens sometimes up at the upper levels, but among street agents and officers, we don't have those problems. I mean, you'll run into a jerk every once in a while, but most of the time we just want to get the bad guy in jail. So one of these cases. I back up. One of the big things we do in the FBI is called UFAP, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, or UFAC, unlawful flight to avoid confinement. These statutes were developed back in the 30s when we had all the gangsters going interstate. They're wanted for a bank robbery in Indiana, and they flee to Missouri. And now, how are we going to get them? We got to call the Missouri police departments to go out and do it. And, depending on how many guys they had, how good they were, how much time they had, it was very difficult to get these guys captured. That's why these gangsters would just go interstate and there wouldn't be any way to stop them. Enter the FBI, federal legislation say it's illegal to go across state lines if there's a warrant for your arrest. So that gives us federal jurisdiction. So, but you'll never get prosecuted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. It is or confinement, because it's simply a vehicle to allow the FBI to assist local law enforcement and state law enforcement in apprehending their fugitives. Excuse me. When they don't have the resources. Man, it's getting dry in here. I better get a bit of Jack Daniel. Yeah, that's a little better. Anyway.
You're good. Do you need to take a minute?
Just a second.
Water went down the wrong pipe.
This is as bad as you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, they're making me got a cough.
Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, that's better. Anyway, so what happens is we arrest these guys, then they end up, we dismiss the violation. We turn them over to the state authorities, and then they prosecute them, accordingly. So we would get these cases all the time. The police in Kansas City, we had a task force. Same thing in New York, where we had detectives from NYPD in New York, or in the case of Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Johnson County, Kansas, which is a suburb. And then off and on, we've had detectives from Missouri Probation Parole, Kansas Probation Parole, Independence Police Department, the U.S. Marshals. We've had all sorts of different people on our task force. But those were the first ones, or the main ones, are always been on it. Mm-hmm. But we've had that our task force expanded, up and down, going up and down, depending on budgets, basically. And so as a result, we get the detective, like say one of our Kansas City, Kansas detectives, he would come over and say, "Hey, I got this murder warrant, and we're gonna, I think I got some leads where this guy might be." So off we go. We go cover these leads, and we develop information that he's staying at a particular house. So we go over and surveil the house, and then set up to hit it early in the morning. Then we come back, before it gets light, and we go knock on the door, and say, is so and so here, and they'd say, and here's what I always love. Now, if somebody knocks on their door and knocks on your door, said, "Tommy, is Don here?" You're going to say, "He ain't here. Why would he be here?" Right? Because he's not here. Yeah. But here's what they say. Here's what they always say. They go, "He don't live here." That's not what I asked you.
Not what I asked.
I asked you if he was there. And as soon as they say that, we know he's there. Yeah. Okay? So we just go, "Yeah, he's here." So because what they'll do is they'll go back and forth with you. They'll say, "He don't live here." So, well, we got information he's here. No. He don't live here. They won't say he's not there. Sometimes they will, but most of the time they'll go back and forth with you like that. And that kind of gives us a clue the guy is there.
Is there a benefit to them not saying he's not here?
Well, in their mind, they think, well, they're not lying because they're not saying anything that's not true, right? Well, we know the game. So what we'll do is we'll pull them out of the house. Say, "Step out here a minute." Yeah. Because the guy's probably inside, so we got the house surrounded. And that's when we start talking to the guy and say, "Look, since it's a third-party residence, we cannot go in, okay, and get him because it's a third-party residence." Say, "Look, here's the deal." And say, we think he's there. We think you're lying to us. And we're not going anywhere until we confirm he's not here. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go get a search warrant, and then we're going to come back in and we're going to tear your house apart until we find him. We'll say, and then by this time they're going, no, you don't have to do that. Then they'll go, he's in the back room or something like that. They'll let us know. Okay. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But eventually we got to get consent to go in. So they'll say, so we always say, "So do we have your consent to search?" And they'll say, "Yes." And then they'll say, "Yeah, go ahead." Because a lot of times say, "I'm telling you, he ain't here. Go ahead." And of course, he is there. Well, they've hidden him real well. Okay. So we'll go in and we'll search, and we'll generally 9 times out of 10, we're going to find him. There have been cases where we have gone in and searched and did not find him.
But he was
there. And
we
went back and found him. He was there.
What do you do for that? Is that what? Where they're hiding. Thermal imaging? Infrared?
No, source information usually. That's usually good old-fashioned gumshoe stuff.
Just put some tear gas in the HVAC?
Yeah, we go back and we contact the source of information and say, "Hey, couldn't find him." They say, "Oh, no, he was there and he's still there," because they think he stays there now. And so we go back again and say, "Hey, come on out here a minute. Hey, he was there last time. Now we know he lied to us." And you know what? He let us search once. He goes, "Sure, go ahead, search again." And we go in this time. We find him. We tear the place apart, and we find him. He's hiding in the headboard of the bed. And then we found him there, or up in the. Somebody put this guy inside a folding couch and closed him up and put him in there. So I said, "Man, if I'd have gone down, I'd have come up and just sat down on that thing." But as it turns out, and we find people hiding in the damnedest places, and they always run to the basement or the attic.
Yeah.
And we would flush them out of the attic or the basement all the time. But then it's dangerous. You stick your head up in an attic when somebody with a gun might be up there.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
They might want to just go out fighting.
Right. And same way, going down into a basement, it's very hard to go down a basement head first. You have to go down feet first. So we would take mirrors and kind of mirror the place. And I was pretty good at always finding them. And I had the self-control not to go berserk when I found them hiding. I had, because that is, if they didn't know I found them, a lot of times they'll hide. And you may see them hiding, but they don't know you've seen them. They know you're out there, and they know you're looking, but they don't know you're seeing. And you kind of you kind of judge that based on the situation. So I'll look over around a corner or over a piece of furniture, and I'll see a piece of flannel shirt sticking out. And I liked it. What I like to always do is just if I see that, I go, okay, there he is. So I just back up, and then I'll go, everybody, hey. Right there he is. And so we'd all just make a semicircle around it and then tell him, come on out. And if he didn't come out, well, then we'd pull the furniture away or whatever the case may be. But I found so many people that way. And I found people completely naked hiding in behind a hot water heater, and we always had a rule. You ride like you hide. So if it's the middle of winter and you're hiding in your skivvies, you're going in your skivvies. And we might throw a blanket around you, but that's about it. Why should we have to be? Why do we have to get you dressed? Okay?
Yeah,
that's not part of the deal. So, but we there was some exceptions to that. But generally speaking, especially if you give us a hard time, you're going just how we found you.
Yeah,
you get handcuffed, you go in the back seat of a nice warm police car. So, but we had a lot of suicides. Mm-hmm. We'd go in and we'd get a guy cornered, and rather than give up, he'd kill himself. Yeah. And I don't know. I think I can remember at least when I was running the task force or on the task force, we had at least a half dozen suicides.
Jeez.
And where we had corner guys and they wouldn't come out, and they just end up killing themselves. Because these are all violent criminals. These are people wanted for murder,
life in
rape,
prison.
Child abuse, or child molestation or rape or something like that, and armed robbery, and they don't want to go back to prison. And so we have guys that would rather kill themselves. One time in particular, I got a couple of them I remember distinctly. We got a guy holed up in Kansas City, Kansas, and he was wanted for murder. Killed his girlfriend and her boyfriend, I believe. And we went to the crime scene the next day and looking for him. It was one of the addresses, and there was still blood all over the place. Yeah. And within a few days, we developed some information. He was hiding at his new girlfriend's house. Okay, so we go over there, and it was classic. We knock on the door. Of course, we're like a miniature SWAT team.
Sure. We
have everything SWAT has, except we don't get dressed up in helmets and black uniforms. We have body armor. We have mirrors. We have breaching material gear. We have bunkers, body bunkers. Mm-hmm. The kind of ballistic shields. So we have all this stuff because we're all most of us are former SWAT, and we all know how to use this stuff. So we go to the door, and I remember I got one of these lightweight shields that you can hold with one hand, have your handgun in the other, and I got a Casey, Missouri PD detective behind me, Mike Bailey, with a shotgun, and we got the task force scattered out around this house, and we start bringing people out. Coming out first we bring out the mom. The mom's not talking. Okay, then we bring out the girlfriend. The girlfriend's crying. Well, you know why she's crying? Because he's in there, and she knows the jig is up. Mm-hmm. He's going to jail. Mm-hmm. So, as it turns out, we interrogate them. We investigate basically, and we interrogate them. Say, look, we know he's in there. If so help us, if we go in there and one of us get hurt, you're going to be on the hook. So don't lie. Tell us the truth. And eventually, like the mother confessed that, yeah, he was in there. So off we go. We go up to the door, got the shield, ready to go in. But first, why go in? Have him come out. Yeah. Right? That's the best way to go. Yeah. It's it's not. This isn't Hollywood. We don't go charging in there. So we go. I go. His name was Larry. I said, it was Larry Holmes or something like that, which is like that boxer's name. But I say, Larry, say, FBI, come on out. We got a warrant for arrest. Come on out. And nothing. Do this a couple times. Larry, you're in there, blah, 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 all this. No, he ain't coming out. So don't hear nothing. And I said, Larry, we're not going anywhere. I said, we have to get the dog. We're going to bring the dog in here, and then the dog's going to find you. It ain't going to be fun. And I'm yelling this, to him. Finally, you hear this. F you, I ain't coming out. Come and get me. And I said, I remember standing there going, I ain't going in there. I look at Mike, so we ain't going in there.
Yeah, there's no purpose, right?
No, he's got a gun, and we're not going in. I mean, that's silly. This is now what we call a barricaded subject. So we're going to call SWAT. Mm-hmm. Now, since it's not an FBI, it's an FBI case, but this is the FBI task force. But the underlying charge is a state charge. Therefore, we will call the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department SWAT team. Mm-hmm. They roll in, they surround the place, and they take over the scene from us. And basically, he's wanted in Kansas City, Kansas. He's in Kansas City, Kansas. Therefore, we got nothing else to do here. So we waited until they were completely settled, and then basically we went ahead and went home. It was about 6:00 at night now, and I found out later the guy killed himself. So it's just the way it goes. Another guy, he had killed his girlfriend, and the one morning, it was like a weekday morning. He showed up at her work, waited for her to get out of her car, and then walked up to her and put a bullet in her head, killed her. Jeez. And I think it was his ex-wife or girlfriend, I can't remember. But they and then he took off. Well, the word got out pretty quick who this guy was. Witnesses saw him, recognized his car, all that stuff. So they called the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Police Department says they got information. He's from Kansas City, Kansas, cross state lines. So whenever anything like that happened, the Kansas City, Missouri would immediately pick up the phone and call their detectives on the Kansas City Metro. We call it the FBI Kansas City Violent Crime Task Force / Fugitive Task Force. We did violent crime and fugitives both. So they would pick up the phone, call the detective, and say, "Hey, got a guy." They say, "We're on it." And so I get the call because I'm the task force coordinator. And Mike says, "Hey, this guy's coming," or it might have been Larry, I can't remember. Or no, it might have been John. So whoever it was one of the guys. He says, "This guy just killed his wife. We think he's probably went back to KCK. We got cars heading over there now." Okay. So I jump in the car, rally the guys, and we all go charging over there. Now I'm on the way over there. I'm going, this is going to end up in a shooting. Mm-hmm. He's got a gun. He just killed his wife. We're going to roll up. We're going to try to take this guy into custody. He probably isn't going to go quietly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so I'm gearing up. I'm thinking this is going to end up in gunplay. So on the radio on the way there, one of my task force guys, Vic Harshberger, he's actually a Kansas probation parole. He says, "Hey, I got the guy's car. I see it in his driveway." I say, "Okay, keep an eye on it. We're rolling. We're almost there, man. We're a few minutes out." A few minutes go by as we're getting there, and all of a sudden, this guy comes out and gets in the car. So he's relaying this stuff frantically. He says, "Hey, the guy's getting ready to move." I said, "Stay on his tail, okay? Because we're almost there, and we're going to come work." Basically, he lived back in his neighborhood, and when we hit the neighborhood, we have the capability to cut him off, okay? So sure enough, the timing was such that when he got left and pulled a block or two away from his house, we pulled up and blocked his exit. And we got Suburbans, we pull up and we block them, and we bail out with our M4s, and we're leaning over the hood, telling him to get out of the car. Well, he pulls up a handgun, sticks it to his head. Okay, and so we're going now. That sometimes is a ploy to get you to come to them, and then they're just going to go bam, shoot you. So we're not going to budge from our cover. We're not that far away. We're probably maybe 10 yards, maybe, and we're over the hoods of our cars. Drop the gun, and he's saying things to us. Can't quite make it out, but we're able to make out what he said. He said, "Is she dead?" Well, that's tantamount to admission that he knows that his somebody he knows is dead or probably dead. So that's kind of an admission he had done it, right? And we didn't answer. We just told him, put the gun down, put the gun down, put the gun down. Well, he didn't put the gun down. He took it, and we're watching him very closely. And he takes the gun. He's got it in his gun. It was a Smith & Wesson 9mm, and he had it to his head. And he's looking at us, and all of a sudden he goes, pow! And he shoots himself, and dead. He's DRT right there. Well, he's not dead yet, but he's dead. He's gonna die. Yeah. And the bullet, goes through his head, and it exits and goes into a house over here and lodges in some siding over here. But it's a little truck, a little Ford Ranger. So I remember when the shot fired, we're like this, looking over the hoods of our car, and I kind of lift my head like this, and I, out of the corner of my eye, I see my partner over here, Kevin. He looks at me, he looks at me, he says, "Well, there's something you don't see every day."
Jesus.
I said, "You got that right." I said, "I'll be damned," So I said, "Well, let me grab the shield." And I said, "Now, what do I need a shield for? This guy is. I can see there's blood pouring out of his mouth. Yeah. He is no threat." Okay. So I approach him by myself. No reason, two of us go up there. I just went up by myself, and I with my gun out, open the door. And I find he's covered in blood, but I find a piece, and I don't have gloves on. And I what I should have done is stop and put gloves on, but I didn't. I found a piece of fabric that wasn't bloody on the back of his shirt, and I grabbed it, and I pull him out, and he just, dead weight. Just if he wasn't dead, his head hit the pavement, probably didn't help. Okay, but his head hit the pavement, just rolls out head first, bam. Lays down, and the blood is just pouring out of him. He has severed a major artery in his brain stem, and bottom line is he wasn't dead yet. The midbrain was still functioning, and but he was as dead as you could be without being dead. Yeah. Okay, so we of course call ambulance. Ambulance comes, they get on him, and they start, we're looking at him and go, yeah, he's still got a pulse. So we got to take him. Because now the guy looks at me and goes, "I hate to screw up your crime scene, but we got to take this guy. He's still got a pulse." I say, "Hey, do what you got to do." Yeah. So off he goes with this guy, and he died en route. He was DOA. But that's again, somebody just kills himself. I mean, it's the damnedest thing. Guy was not going to go to jail. Yeah. And I don't remember this guy's criminal history, but he I don't think it was that serious. But it was just he had basically gotten to the point where he felt this was the solution: a murder-suicide. Yeah. And that's kind of people. And I always tell people, because I did a lot of training as a firearms instructor. I was also the principal tactical instructor for the office, and I tell the cops and the agents when we train, I said, we don't train for the people that will listen to us and that will do what we say. We train for the crazy ones that will not follow your instructions. They will not do what you tell them to do. They care very little about their life. Why should they care about yours? So, and those are the kind of people we often encounter. So I've got another one about this. The crash. There was another.
I've got images of a car crash you sent me.
Oh yeah. I should be looking at these pictures because they kind of prompt some of my stories. But
Don, I'm gonna go piss.
All right, go ahead. Let's pull up these pictures, and we'll get them lined up. And then I can refer to the story. It takes a while for these pictures to load, but the car crash was that was probably there's a couple ones. I got a shooting and I got a car crash. I got a list of things here that we could talk about. But back in 2010, maybe we had a guy wanted for aggravated assault, attempted murder, basically, and he was out in someplace out in a suburb of Kansas City, and he basically was in a house where we couldn't quite set up on him very well, but we were able to watch the intersection. And when the car left, that fit the description of what we believed his girlfriend was driving. It was at his girlfriend's house. Isn't that always the case? We were able to follow that car. So we immediately started doing some loose surveillance on the vehicle to see who's in the car and if perhaps our fugitive was in the car. Okay, and then if he was, of course, now we have to decide how we're going to handle this. Well, as it turns out, this isn't going to end well, as you can see. But as it turns out, we're following the car, and one of the detectives, I think it was John Cooley, who got up alongside him and said, "Yeah, that's him. He's driving. He's behind the driver's wheel." So, oh, great. This is bad. If he's a passenger, that's a little better because maybe we can get the driver to stop. But if he's driving, he ain't gonna stop. Okay, so we're figuring, okay, we got to do something. We got to do a felony car stop on this guy.
What's
because
that? What's a felony?
Felony car stop means this guy is not going to comply. Therefore, there's felony car stops where they comply. Those are a little different. And then there's felony car stops where they don't comply. Okay, and this is one where we anticipated he would not comply. So therefore, we were trying to find a spot to do it. It was one of these days in Kansas City where there wasn't a lot of traffic. I was kind of early afternoon, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, 1:30 maybe, something like that. It was not a lot of cars on the road. So of course we're following this guy. We've been following him, for about 10 miles now, and the traffic just wasn't that heavy. And we can see, and when you're following somebody, you can look in the rearview mirror and watch their eyes and their their side mirror, and you can see when they're looking at you. And we were rotating cars on him, and trying to leapfrog with him. But eventually, it got to the point where by the time we got downtown Kansas City, we were the only cars behind him, and we just weren't about to lose this guy.
Yeah.
So we stayed on him. I wouldn't say we bumper locked him, but we stayed on him, and then we got to an intersection where it was 4-lane street, and it was 2 lanes, and we could pull. There was nobody there, but he pulls up behind somebody, so we were able to pull up and block him. Okay, so and I'm looking at this, going, okay, if we can take him here, we can jump out. And I'm looking at my fields of fire. I'm going, okay, it shouldn't impact the car in front of him. Okay, we should be good if we do this the way we have it envisioned. Now, we're discussing this on the radio. So we say, okay, this looks like as good a place as any, because he was looking really hard at us, and we're just about that far from him taking off, we could tell. And then we got a car chase, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of push the envelope on this. So I would rather that civilian not be in the mix, but we thought we could handle it. So as it turns out, we stopped alongside a slight terrace that went into a park, and of course, car in front. We pull our cars up alongside. I pull up alongside the civilian car. He's now stuck behind the other car. And then there's another one of our task force cars pinning him in from his left side. He can't go anywhere. At least we thought, right? But he's in a Ford Explorer. Expedition, I believe. Expedition, a big one. And he guns that thing up onto the curb, up this terrace, through the park, out into this, I think it was 31st Street, main drag, another 4-lane street. So I'm up front there next to this car. So I jump back in. I've just taken off my seatbelt, drawn my gun, got back. I holster back up. I jump back in the car. I take off. I don't put my seatbelt on because I'm in hot pursuit, right? So I'm right in behind him. And if we get to this Southwest Trafficway, it's now a 6-lane highway, red light. And he goes blowing through that red light, and he T-bones a Lincoln limo and just creams this thing. And I said, oh, my God, he killed that guy. I said, we got to stop this guy. And he didn't stop. He spun around, and I'm right there. I'm like just hovering with my vehicle, and I'm waiting for him to kind of stop. He won't stop. He keeps pushing the car. The car is severely damaged, but he keeps pushing it. It's still running. It's an Expedition. And
this podcast sponsored by Ford.
Yeah, exactly. And I am driving a Chevy Tahoe, that silver Chevy Tahoe. So he heads down the wrong way on Southwest Trafficway, And so now he's going against traffic, and I see this, so I swing wide with traffic going down the southbound lanes. He's in the northbound lanes going south. I'm in the southbound lanes going south. So I go down to the next light. There's a slight median in the middle. I make a U-turn, and just over the rise, I can see him coming. And cars are kind of, moving out of the way. And I got my light and siren on, and I'm heading right for him because I'm going to have to ram this guy. And he sees me coming at him, and so he does one of these. He braces on the steering wheel, and you can tell he guns it. Okay, so
Jesus Christ.
Turnabout, fair play. I grab my steering wheel and I stuck on it. So I am heading, and I didn't think twice about getting hurt. I was going to ram this guy and take him out
because he's going to hurt other people.
Oh yeah. And so what he was trying to do, I think, was trying to go cut diagonally across those lanes of traffic, because he kind of came from the far right, my far right, across all three lanes towards the median, but I caught him right before he got to the median, okay, in basically my lane. I went probably from the center lane over to the left lane, caught him in that left lane. And so my left front, my whole front and my left side impacted with the corresponding side on his car. And it was an explosion. It was like the car, a big shake, and I fly into the steering wheel. Well, but the airbags deploy. Everything, bags deploy all around me, and I can see just barely over the top of the airbags that my hood is pushed way up. I know I've ruined this car.
Yeah.
So this vehicle's out of commission. So I go to open the door. I feel fine.
Yeah.
I open the door. I got to get out. I want to arrest this guy, right? So I figure he's taking off down the road. I got to stop this guy. So I push. I can't get the door open. So I get up against the console and push with my feet, and I'm able to get the door open just far enough for me to squeeze out.
Yeah.
And I get out and I stand, and there he is. He's not but 40 feet from me, hung up on the median, and all the task force cars are converging on him. They're trying to pull him out of the car. Well, I go running up there, and as I'm running, I'm looking to see what's going on, and I got two detectives on one side, but trying to pull him out the driver's door, which is damaged, can't be opened, and he still got I don't know if he has a seatbelt on or not, but he wasn't coming out. Probably not. These guys never wore seatbelts, but I run to. They got that side, so I run to the passenger side. And Kevin Finley, our Johnson County detective, is pulling a woman and a child out, and I think John Hogger, another agent, was there, and they're pulling these people out. So I fished right between them and jumped in the passenger seat in the front, and I grabbed this guy by his right forearm, his right forearm. Now, they teach us a few control holds, and they teach you just enough to get your ass beat, usually, in New Agers training. But if you learn a couple decent holds, you can control people effectively, as long as you know how to apply them and use them. So I made it my point to learn a couple effective holds, control holds. So simplest one is a wrist lock. Reach up and grab the hand and the hand and the wrist by this hand, and then this hand with the other hand, the forearm of this hand, and I basically just crank it, okay? And there's no way you can hold on to the steering wheel when I do that. And when I do, I just crank it, and now I got his wrist. I got the back of his wrist in my hand here, and I just crank it, and I just keep cranking it, okay? And when I simply, because I can turn that a quarter turn, and you're coming with me whether you want to or not. Mm-hmm. And I just back out of the car, dragging him with me, and I got him in basically a wrist lock, and he can't maneuver. He can't resist because I've got him in the car, right? So I pull him. He has to come with me because he's screaming, okay? And I get him out, and by this time, the other agent, John is there, and Kevin, and we're just pile drive him into the pavement and cuff him. And so not only did I get to hit his car, but I get to cuff him. I get to arrest him too. So now the smoke clears, literally.
Yeah.
And you see the other picture there shows the two cars.
Yeah.
That's his Ford Expedition. What's left of it?
What's on the road in front of it's like brown?
Yeah, that's what was the antifreeze oil. God, it was everything. All the fluids that were in that vehicle came out.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was blood.
No blood. Thank
Okay.
goodness. The passengers were slightly injured. He was slightly injured. It was the damnedest thing. I mean, these guys are like cockroaches. You can't kill them.
Yeah. What was the car crash like? Is there is it adrenaline? Does it slow down?
I was wired, man. I tell you what, I was wired. It was like being in a shooting.
Yeah.
I was wired. And
I don't know why I'm nodding. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, all the shootings I've been in. Like, okay, I know what you're talking about. Like,
but you understand adrenaline.
I understand the concept of it, but no, I've never had like a full on like adrenaline. Maybe, but not for my life. I don't know why I'm agreeing. Yeah. I've done that before with people where I nod. I'm like, sure, yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do when I had on Brigadier General Robert Spalding. I think at one point I was nodding. He piloted B-2 Spirits. Those are $2 billion stealth nuclear bombers. I was like, of course, naturally.
Yeah.
In sweatpants above my parents' garage. I'm like, yeah. I remember that from the Air Force Academy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Well, you can look at that picture and see the vehicle, his vehicle.
Yeah.
If you look just past the police, one of the task force guys is standing in the photo, and just beyond that is that light. I'm right under that light. That's how close I was to him.
Jesus.
So he didn't get very far.
Okay.
As you can see, that vehicle was not drive-worthy anymore.
Yeah.
So it came to a screeching halt. But
yours is pretty fucked up as well.
Well, I get out. Now, if you'll click on that little Word document,
okay,
there's a newspaper article that accompanied this story.
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
And
FBI agent?
That's it.
Is that the... Okay. It's opening.
That's the one. Yeah. And if you would indulge me, read the title.
Sure. It's opening up. Come on. It's going slow.
Oh, come on. Do I have to read it?
No, I know how to read. FBI agent's bold move stops wrong-way driver. Bold move. Bold move.
Man, did I get some mileage out of that?
Bold move.
It was, so basically, I'll synopsis the article. They're basically synopsized. It's, the media shows up, of course, they're interviewing eyewitnesses. And one of the guys, by now everybody realizes, hey, that's the FBI task force. And they're making an arrest, and the word gets out of what was going on and all that. And then basically they're interviewing this guy who was an eyewitness on his front porch watching the whole thing when it happened. And he basically goes, at some point, I guess they had to stop this guy. So the FBI agent made a bold move.
Have you ever seen the movie Dodgeball?
No, I've heard of it. I never have.
Oh well, one of the lines from it is like one of the guys does something stupid. He goes, "That's a bold move. Let's see how it works out." That's what I think. It's like that's like a cult classic. So everyone knows the bold move. So
yeah, well, you can imagine, working with the guys I was working with.
Yeah, bold move.
The kind of crap I took over that. I mean, everybody had a good hoot out of that, but it was. But it's funny. I'm thinking, okay, how is the front office gonna react to this? I totaled an FBI vehicle.
But I mean, if you hadn't, imagine if he takes off and runs over a bunch of civilians, and all of a sudden it's, oh, I thought the FBI was gonna stop this guy. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, thank you, Tommy. That was kind of my rationale. Okay, and luckily, I did have a very supportive. Command staff basically at the FBI. They, for whatever reason, they like me. They know I worked hard, and they know I did results, and I always tried to do the right thing. I make mistakes. Okay, I've made a lot of mistakes. Sure. I'm skipping over a lot of those. But man, I'm telling you, they were very supportive. I mean, they looked at it like, hey, you did what you had to do. So the funny part about it was I ended up getting another Tahoe, but 2 years newer.
Yeah.
So it worked out great for me. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it kind of sounds like when there's like mayors or politicians, when you ever hear like a senator, like, well, you know what, maybe, whenever there's like a shooting of, a cop, and you always hear someone from some ivory tower that's always like, you should have shot them in the leg. And it's like, dude, you're talking to, again, that's like me giving advice on how to do this. And it's like, I'm looking at it through like, lazy, like New Year's Day, sitting in a sweatshirt and a leather chair, and I'm like, Don, let me tell you how you should have done it. Like, when it's happening, it's like, I mean, you can't know until it happens. It's, it's like, how come they emptied the clip? And it's like, because at the end of like a car chase or a shootout, and there's an adrenaline dump, and here's a guy, and it comes down to who's going home tonight. You're just like,
yeah, you react based on your training experience, and then of course the adrenaline has a big vote in that, So you basically have to learn to control it to some degree, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something else about that, but no, I can't remember what I was going to say about that now.
Bold move.
There was something about the front office.
New Tahoe.
The new hot towel. They were pretty good. They said you do what you had to do, but that was that. I guess that was it. They were pretty cool about it. And I was supposed to leave. That was on a Friday, and I was supposed to leave, go out of town. I was going to go back to Illinois to visit family or something like that. And I called my wife and told her about it. She says, "Well, you're going to be sore tomorrow. You're not going to be."
Yeah.
I said, "I feel fine. I'm fine." And you know what? I never was. I bruised my knee a little bit. That's it. Oh. But I was fine, and we ended up going home anyway. And so all weekend I got to drink for free. Just told the story.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
But I was going to try and hit. We only got a few more minutes left here, and then I've probably got another couple of stories.
So let's do a part 3.
It's all right. I'd have to think about that, but
no, fuck it. Tell them all.
We're involved in a shooting. We're involved in a shooting in Olathe, Kansas, with the task force, and it was 2009, if I remember right. Got a guy. He was a one-man crime wave, selling drugs, robbing people, armed robbery, all kinds of stuff. He was Nick Henry, just an absolute thug. I mean, and he just running circles around the quads or the metro area, doing all these crimes. So we were trying to hunt this guy down, and he was difficult to track. He was basically he would never stay in one place very long. He had like girlfriends and crack, houses he'd hide out at. We're always like one step behind him. One of the detectives, Kevin Finley, again, he was able to track down a source that said, or the source came to him with some information, I think, because he was a friend of the guy, but he could see this guy was going to end up dead or in jail for the rest of his life. And because he was out of control. He was strung out on drugs and all that. And so he said, and he was getting more and more violent. And so he thought, as a friend, he needs to turn him in. And he was absolutely correct. So bottom line is Kevin calls me and says, "Hey, I got this source." It's like a Sunday. And he calls me. He said, "When and where? Let's meet." And so we meet in Olathe, as a matter of fact. And ironically, we met in a parking lot, just diagonally across the intersection from where the shooting actually ended up taking place. But it was just coincidence. Okay, so I got the information from the source, and we put the plan together. Well, the first thing I do, I'm going to need more people because we want to make sure this guy doesn't get out. I got the task force out there, but I'm calling in my SWAT guys. Okay, now me, I'm off SWAT now. I'm pretty 2009. I can't remember. Maybe I can't remember if I was on or not on that. Yeah, I think I still was.
How hard you?
I can't remember. They all run together. I don't think I was SWAT team leader anymore because I was running the task force, and I wasn't doing both, I don't think. Anyway, I call up these guys, and I say, "Hey, we need some bodies, and they're all SWAT guys." And I said, "Come on out." A couple of them were on our squad, so they came out. They were happy to pitch in, and I said, "And bring the SWAT van." Okay, so they did. So the plan was that we were going to this guy was going to meet him, and if he got into, we're going to try and park his car next to the SWAT van. And so when the guy pulls up, we're going to try and entice him over to the source's car. If he can get in the car with him, then we can bail out and take him into custody. Okay. But we had this had to work just right. Okay, so we thought that's our best option right now because we know if we did try to stop in a car, it'd be a car chase and all that. So we get the tip. Says, I'll get a call. He's going to meet us at a restaurant in Overland Park, Kansas, which is an adjacent city. So we call the Overland Park Police Department and say, hey, we're going to be doing this operation. Could you send us some officers? And they said, happy to. So they sent us a bunch of officers over to help us out. So now we got the Overland Park Police Department there. We got us there. We got our SWAT guys there. We got this all planned out. We briefed. We did everything, right down the line. Set up in a restaurant, got people inside, got two people driving the van, a man and a woman. It was actually Kevin Finley and a female FBI agent, okay, named Lena. And she was in there, and they're dressed down. They're dressed in street clothes, no body armor. They got their guns hidden. And they're basically going in like a couple into the restaurant, and they're going to, in case they go inside, okay, because that was kind of what we thought was going to happen. So we had this covered every which way from Sunday. And lo and behold, we wait. Nothing happens. And, of course, typical, bad guy, doper type, he calls. He says, maybe somewhere else. I'm going to go drive down to this Quick Trip. And, now it's starting to get dark. And so I got to drive down this Quick Trip in Olathe, which is about a mile from where we ended up. Mm-hmm. And so we drive down there. Now we're leaving the jurisdiction of Overland Park, but they came with us. So to their credit. And they're there, and so we call the Olathe PD. We say, hey, we're in your town, but, we're doing this operation. And they said, well, if you need any help, no, we got a lot of guys out here. So they said, okay, we'll steer clear of the area, okay? And so we're waiting. And sure enough, the source gets a phone call, and he's wired up. We got a transmitter on him. He says, okay, just got a call. He's going to be meeting me meeting me here, and he's going to call me when he gets here. And so we're looking around, but we don't know what he's driving. So all of a sudden, we're watching though, and we see a white pickup truck come in the parking lot. It's a Dodge Ram, brand new one, and we see him get on the phone. So we think, hey, this might be interesting. And sure enough, he hangs up because that's our guy right there in the white truck. He told me to follow him. So, okay, we're following you. So he follows the white truck. And I again, it's one of those deals. I just happened to be in the right spot, and I was following the source. So everybody else was following in behind me. Now, we got guys scattered all over looking, in case, things get out of control. So now we're all trying to converge on this rolling surveillance. Well, he only goes down about a mile, and he hangs a right. And again, like I said, we're literally, a stone's throw of where we met earlier than day. And he turns right down this street, and then he turns right into a shopping center, kind of a strip mall. One of these deals where it's not open to the street, but there's the backs of the buildings face the street. But there's, of course, entrances, and it's like a inner parking lot with stores all around. Okay, yeah. And it's a great big inner parking lot with stores in a big rectangle. So I see him pull in. Well, I can't pull in. I'm going to be too close. So I drive down to the next entrance, turn in, pick up a long eye. And I got a sergeant from the Overland Park PD with me. And so he's communicating with his guys. I'm communicating with my guys. I said, okay, I got him. He's pulling up. That truck is stopped. He backed in. The Corvette that the source is in is backed in. There's a space between them. And they're facing north. Okay, so everybody knows what it looks like. So when they're coming in, I said, get everybody, stack up on 151st Street, make the right on Ridgeview, turn into the parking lot. Let's take them down right here, right now. And so I'm in a position where all I got to do is go straight ahead. I'm right there, and so I'm in the parking lot, and maybe 100 yards away, and sure enough, the van says, okay, making the turn. And they make the turn, and they zip up right in front and kind of block these two vehicles so they can't get out, right? And, of course, they're facing such that the driver or the passenger door can open, and our guys can bail out away from the cars. Can't be seen, can't be shot at, and they split up into two groups and go around either side of the van. And so how it went down was, and by this time, I'm rolling up. Okay. And so how it happens is that the guys that went out the back side of the van went to the car door and yanked out this woman that was in the car. And thank God they did. And the other guys turned around and came out the other side. And the minute the car came in, the minute the van pulled in, it's just looks like a blue van. It's just I think it was the white van. I think we had then, but it looked kind of like a work van. The woman says, it's the cops. It's the cops. She said she picked us out for the cops right away. And I don't know why, but she did. And so the guy jumps out of the Corvette, runs to the truck, pulls out a gun, starts shooting at us. Okay. Well, he was met with a hail of gunfire. Okay. And he jumps inside the truck and he tried to shoot Kevin as he got out of the car first. And then he's inside his truck now with the door shut and he's shooting. And we're shooting back. He got one or two shots off maybe, and then it was answered with a volley of shots. Luckily, the guys had pulled that woman out on the passenger side, immediately threw her to the ground, and just about the time our guys opened up and they started shooting at this guy. Now there wasn't the potential for crossfire was huge, but it worked out real well. It didn't. Nothing. I repeat, nothing got through that truck. That truck was a bunker. We shot all the windows out, and he was trying to crawl into the back seat and get on his body armor, and because he told us all this later, and he ended up getting shot in both arms, both legs, both hands, both feet. It's just like, 8 times, and then he got hit once in the head, and then twice in the body. So it was like a dozen times he got shot. And so he basically ends up in the back, and somewhere in the course of this, I say he managed to get off 2 shots. He got in the back, and he disappeared below the door of the vehicle. So any shots that hit the truck did not get in. Everything stopped shooting. Nothing to shoot at, so we stopped shooting. We yelled at him, "Hey, put your hands up, see your hands." So we can see one bloody hand come up. And then let's see the other one. So he's conscious, he can hear us. Get the other hand up, see 2 bloody hands. So I grab a shield, go walk up, open the door, and I got to literally sort through bags of crap in the back seat to get my hands on him, and we pull him. Or I don't think I put hands on. I just come up, open the door, got a chance to look in there, and the guys start pulling stuff out. And we pulled him out, and I think it was John Cooley that cuffed him, put him on the ground and cuffed him. But and he was wounded severely. He was covered in blood. Okay, and so, but he's in a lot of pain. And I remember looking at him. I go, "Hey, Nick. Say, are you in pain?" He goes, "Yeah, hell yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "Well, that's good because that means you'll probably survive." I said, "So just hang on." And it happened to be there was a paramedic having a pizza at a place nearby. He came over, rendered a little assistance to the guy. Plus the cops were there, and the Olathe PD was there in a heartbeat. And they patched him up and hauled him off in handcuffs to the hospital. But that was a big shooting we were involved in Kansas with the task force, and I used the example to teach civilians about shootings because I teach concealed carry and defensive pistol and things like that. And I said, just because you shoot somebody doesn't mean they're going to stop fighting. Okay, I've seen videos of guys. I just saw one recently where a police officer shot this guy 14 out of 15 times. She had a malfunction, a stovepipe in the middle of her string of fire. She cleared it and continued shooting before the guy went down. And he was swinging 2 machetes at the time.
Jesus.
So, and she was backpedaling, trying to get away from it. It was incredible. Bullets, will perform a certain function provided you hit them in vitals, but you have to bleed out. Your blood pressure has to drop before you're going to collapse. Yeah. And some people get hit in the arm. They fall down. They go, "Oh, I'm shot. I can't move." But some people get shot in the heart, and they'll stand there and look at you. It's just it just is. There's no explanation for it. It's like I've deer hunted, shot deer through both lungs and the heart, and they'll run 100 yards. It's just adrenaline. And humans can do that. Not like that, but they can do things like that. So the fight ain't over. What is the old saying? Yeah, you should keep shooting until not till you think he's dead, but until he thinks he's dead. So that's the bottom line.
Jesus.
So
is there? I mean, is there any? I guess. Well, it's like law enforcement, so you're not necessarily like going for the kill. I was going to say, you
go to neutralize the stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, what about stronger stuff like the military? Then I realized that's why it's in the military. It's because they're not trying to take you hostage. They're, trying to eliminate you. Okay, yeah. So something like like armor piercing or.
The irony of that is that the ammunition the military uses is not effective as law enforcement ammunition. Law enforcement ammunition is made to expand and stay inside the human body, whereas military ammunition is made to zip right through.
Yeah.
And the more people you can hit with one bullet, the better.
Yeah.
But and there's some people say, hey, in the military, it's a great idea to wound somebody because every time you wound somebody, it takes at least 3 or 4 people to take care of that one guy.
Yeah.
So you tie up a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And the trouble with wounded guys, they come back and fight again.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's there is I could go into about firearms and shooting and defensive use of firearms, things like that. But we're out of time. I think we've been 2 hours, so it's
fuck. You're right. We have. Well,
yeah.
I don't think we're finished yet. I think we need to do a part 3. If you've got more stories,
well, I've always got more stories.
Well, then we're doing a part 3.
Well, some of them might be true too. You never know. So I'll have to think about it. We'll talk.
Yeah. I'm busy for probably the next. I think I'm busy through like the 10th or 11th.
No problem.
But we'll put together a part 3, and you need to get some more stories, and let's do. I do an episode. I do at least one a day, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like, oh, we're gonna do a third. It's like I'm gonna do episodes anyway, so it's like, come on, man. If you got good stories, tell us stories.
Well, some of the best stories I have are not FBI stories. So
I don't care.
But save that for another time.
Okay.
But I appreciate it. I did this. When I first started this, I go, I don't know about this. Who the hell wants to hear this stuff? I mean, when I tell stories at a party, everybody gets a big kick out of them. I thought, well, what the hell? It might be fun, and it has been.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. Me
fun.
Reminiscing about this, and it's been a lot of fun to do that, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from my first one. So you're feeding the dragon, man. It's not a good idea.
Good. No, I'm going to continue to feed the dragon. I'm going to keep feeding you until you sprout wings and start breathing fire. I'm poking the bear. I'm like, do something. Go farther. No, man. That's my favorite thing, though. Yesterday I had on Helen Patton, granddaughter of General George Patton.
Yeah.
And she asked me, what is it? Because she said, your podcast episodes are all over the place. Like, what is it that's your interest? And I was like, I am passionate about talking to people who are passionate about something. I don't care what it is that they like. I don't give a shit. Writing, FBI, making shoes, I don't care. Trading cards, all of those. When people are passionate about something, I just like having them on because it's like genuine good content because they just light up and they tell you the story.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've got Gerald Posner's podcast queued up. I'm going to watch it right after yours because I read his book. It's fantastic.
Which one?
The one about Case Closed.
Case Closed. That one's really good.
Yeah. Great. And I think he's right on the money.
Yeah.
I think he's right on the money.
Yeah.
My brother and I disagree.
Yeah.
My brother is Secret Service. Yeah. He thinks. You did the podcast about Firebase Kate with him.
Yeah.
But he has different opinions. I'm going. I don't know if I buy that.
I'm with Bill. I'm all in on the conspiracy. I'm like, it was the fucking CIA. It was James Jesus Angleton. That's who it was. Despite all of the evidence to the contrary, I will stand.
It could be. Could be.
So. Oh man, it was. I got tempted yesterday because Miss Helen Patton brought up, and she was like, some people think like my grandfather's death was a conspiracy, and she was like, whether or not it is, like, we don't need to go into that. Mm-hmm. I was like gripping my chair. I was like, can we please go into it? I was like, that's my favorite. I live in a world of tinfoil hats. That is my arena. Yeah. That is my lifeblood. But that one's a good one. You should watch any of the ones with Dale Comstock. Delta Force.
I am. I'm going to watch those, and I've seen Jimmy Galliano's. That's why his.
Yeah.
So I am. You got quite a selection there. So I'm going to start touching on those.
Yeah.
I've been kind of confined to a couple retired FBI case files podcasts and a Jordan Peterson podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm adding you to my list.
Good. It's really easy to find the Dale Comstock ones because just sort videos by most viewed. His are all the top, and everyone loves seeing him. He just gets into it. He just gets all jacked up and talks about it's just gonna start killing. I'm like, fuck yeah. There's some good ones, man. It's there's some crazy ones, man. One of my favorites. I like them all, but one of my favorites, episode 216, with Charlie Duke, the 10th man to walk on the moon. That one was special.
You just did that, didn't you?
No. That was because this is episode 306. That was episode 216.
Oh, somehow or another that popped up. I was.
Well, that one's a great one. Him. Yeah. Mike Durant, episode 95.
Yep.
There are a lot of cool
check
ones.
These out.
Yeah, 160. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'll just text them to you. I don't know why
I want to know why I'm in the company of these guys. That's what I want to know.
That's what everyone asks. They're like, "Why do you want to talk to me?" And I'm like, "Because you're." The same thing. I think it was 211. Rob Manning, the chief of NASA JPL. He's the head guy of the rovers they send to other planets. Yeah. I emailed him and I was like, "Would you like to come on the podcast?" And he was like, "Why me?" He was like, "You have such big guests," and I'm like, with all due respect, sir. And I said this to him on the podcast. I was like, with all due respect, you drive around toy cars on other planets. I was like, I don't know how I follow that up. Like, what do you mean? It's so the same thing to you. You're like, why do you want to talk to me? I'm like, as like we just did an episode on you, like taking down the terror cell that was going to bomb the World Trade Center for a second time. Like, with all due respect, what the fuck do you mean? Why do I have you on? Because you have great stories. Like,
that's old hat to us.
You got to remember, dude. Because otherwise, it's just me sitting here, like, me and my dumbass friends. Like, let's talk about aliens. Like, no, man, you got good stories. So,
we lose perspective sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's humility, right? Same thing with Charlie Duke. He was like, "Thank you." He was like, "What?" He's like, "Why would you? What would you like to talk about?" And in my mind, I was like, what it's like to walk on the moon. I was like, that's sometimes I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean? What do I want to talk about? So, but I realized most of these people really are that humble. It's same with Mike Durant. He was like, he's like, I'm not sure if it would be interesting. What would you like to talk about? And I was like, getting taken hostage for 13 days in Mogadishu, like having Bill Clinton threaten to invade with the entire U.S. Army.
Yeah, that's it.
I was like, just spitballing. We could talk, or we could talk about whatever, the NFL, but but yeah, man, you've got good stories. And as always, I say it's, if you have anyone of any interest, please get them to come on. Yeah.
I'd recommend you because, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's fun. That's what I try to make it. It's not some, like I said, not some edited, like, welcome back. It's just like, no, it's just like, I'm going to go pee and you keep telling stories about like ramming cars into people. And it's just like, there's no editing unless someone specifically asks, like, can you take that out? There's no editing, man. It's this. It's like I said to you on the phone before we did an episode. You were like, what is it like? And I'm like, it's like this phone call, but with video. Yeah. That's all it fucking is. And it's just, there's nothing more. So please do. Always trying to grow it. And, I'll text you my favorite episodes, but let's definitely put together a part 3.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tommy.
All right, my man. Happy New Year. Happy New Year's to you as well. And God, please let 2021 be better.
Oh, you're right. You said a mouthful.
I know. God, it's gonna, in a year, we're gonna look back at this and be like, those poor souls. Yeah. They had no idea. All right, my man. Happy New Year's. Man. Thank you very much.
You bet. See you later.
Bye-bye.